Hi everybody, Mrs. Jones here. In this video, we are going to talk about standard form, which the name of it might feel unfamiliar, but I promise you've actually seen this type of equation before. And then we're going to talk about intercepts. You have seen y-intercepts, but there's another type of intercept, which I'm going to introduce to you here. So let's start with a little story about Cliff. This is my lovely dog, Cliff. And let's pretend Cliff started off with 10 treats, and every day he eats 2 treats. I want you to pause the video. I want you to think about what's the equation, what's going to be the slope, what's going to be the y-intercept, and then if you feel good, try graphing it. All right, you're back. So, Mr. Cliffy, let's see. His equation here is going to be y equals negative 2x plus 10. Let's start with our slope. He is eating 2 treats every day. That makes my slope negative, right? Because the amount of treats is going away. So we can think about this x as being our days and y as being our treats. So the slope is negative because if he's eating it, the number of treats is decreasing, okay? My y-intercept then is going to be 10 because that's how many treats Cliff started with, okay? So if we graph this, I know I'm going to go start at 10 on my y-axis, right? This is my y-axis. This is my x-axis. And if my slope is negative 2, I'm going to go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, right? I'm thinking about my rise over run, and I'm going to keep doing that. And then I'm going to connect the dots. And it's going to look something like that. Not a very straight line, but you get the idea. So we are going to think now about our y-intercept and our x-intercept. So our x-intercept is up here, right? You know that our y-intercept. You know that our y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. If I wanted to write this as a coordinate, right? I want to think about how much am I going over side to side, right? Our taxi, and then how much am I flying? Well, if I'm starting at my origin, I didn't taxi anywhere, right? All I did was fly. So my y-intercept, the coordinate is 0, 10. Now my x-intercept is right here. Look at the coordinates of this nice x-intercept. It's saying that I've gone over 5, I've taxied 5, and I've gone up 0. Okay. If we think about this x-intercept, again, where the line crosses the x-axis, in the context of our scenario with Cliff, that means that after 5 days, right, because x is days, after 5 days, Cliff will have 0 treats. He's eaten them all up. Okay, so let's try this one. We are going to graph this. We know we're going to start at negative 6. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. And then if my slope is 3, I'm going to go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, and I can keep going. And now my line is going to be about like that. So let's check our x-intercept I see and my y-intercept I see. My y-intercept, I am going nowhere, side to side, right? I have not gotten my taxi, and I've gone down 6. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 6, which you should remember, again, is our nice, beautiful b value in my slope-intercept form. My x-intercept here, again, is where the line crosses the x-axis. And you'll see I've taxied 2 spaces, and I've gone up 0. All right, so what do you notice off of the last 2 slides? Well, hopefully you're noticing that my y-intercept, again, that's wherever the line crosses the y-axis, that's whenever x is 0. And then I have some value for y, okay? If I think about I'm starting at my origin and I'm going either up or down on my y-axis for the y-intercept, I haven't taxied anywhere, right? Well, then for my x-intercept, it's going to be some amount in my taxi and then 0. So what that means is I've either gone forward in my taxi or backwards in my taxi, but then I haven't flown anywhere. So your y-intercept is when x is 0, and your x-intercept is when y is 0. So I want you to try graphing this equation, and let's see if this is true. Let's see if we see our y and x-intercepts as following that rule that we just said. All right, you're back. Hopefully, your graph looks something like this. You should have a y-intercept of 0, 2, which again makes sense, right? Because here, that's my beautiful b value, right? My x-intercept should then be 5, 0. All right, moving on. So what about this one? This 4x minus 5y equals 20 is our standard form. Again, that's what I was saying in the beginning. You may not necessarily know it's called standard form, but it is. It's this ax plus by equals c. And you know how to graph this. So I want you to pause right now, and I want you to work on how would you graph this equation. Okay, you're back. So hopefully your gut instinct is to transform it into slope-intercept form, meaning get it into y equals mx plus b. So I would subtract my 4x on both sides, and then I'm going to be at negative 5y equals negative 4x plus 20. Then I'm going to divide by negative 5. Everything gets divided by negative 5. And I end up with y equals 4/5 x minus 4. This is now in my slope-intercept form, right, which I know how to graph. I have my b value to start with, and then I have my rise over run. Well, what if I told you I had a magic trick to show you? So let's take this same equation and let's think about our y-intercept and our x-intercept. We know that my y-intercept is going to be whenever x is 0, and I'm going to have some value for y. I know that my x-intercept, I'm going to have some value for x, and I know when my y is going to be 0. So what I'm going to teach you right now, this little magic trick, is what we call the cover-up method. So if we think about my 4x minus 5y equals 20. Well, if I'm saying that x is going to be 0, if I'm plugging in x of 0 into right here, this means that this entire term is going to go away, right? I can cover that up. 4 times 0 is just 0. It doesn't matter. So all I'm focusing on is this negative 5y equals 20. So in other words, negative 5 times what equals 20. Hopefully that's some good mental math, and you should realize, oh, my y value is going to be negative 4. Amazing. Now, let's go back and check. Look, you got a negative 4 as your b value. Okay, now let's try our x-intercept. So I'm going to rewrite my equation again, thinking about my cover-up method. 4x minus 5y equals 20. This time, if I'm going to take 0 and I'm going to plug it in for y, that means this whole thing is going to go away, right? Because 5 times 0 is just 0. It doesn't matter. So now I'm thinking about 4. I can think about it as 4x equals 20. 4 times what is 20? Well, hopefully, again, some good mental math. You're going to get an x-intercept of 5. Now, instead of graphing this with my y-intercept, my rise over run, I have two perfect easy coordinates to graph, and those are my intercepts. I know my y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 4, and I know my x-intercept is 5, 0. And now I can connect the dots, and I have my line. So this is your magic trick. It's called the cover-up method, covering up one term and figuring out one intercept and covering up the other term and figuring out the other intercept. So you have now a graphing toolbox. You have your slope-intercept form, which is your y equals mx plus b, right? This is where you're going to think about starting at your b value, and then you're going to think about your rise over run with your slope, okay? You also have now this ax plus by equals c, which is called our standard form. And in order to graph that, you're going to use what we call the cover-up method. All right, so I want you to pause the video here, and I want you to try to graph this one on your own using the cover-up method. Okay, you're back. Let's see. How'd you do? Hopefully, you got a y-intercept of negative 3, and you got an x-intercept of 2. You connect the dots, and there's your graph. Amazing. All right, let's try one more. 4x plus 8y equals 16. Try the cover-up method. All right, you're back. Here we go. Hopefully you got a y-intercept of 2, 0, 2, and an x-intercept of 4, 0. All right, amazing. So now what happens when we have horizontal or vertical lines? So hopefully x equals 3. You are realizing this is going to be a vertical line. That means that I'm going over 3, and I'm thinking about a vertical line that goes through this point. Okay, it means that every single point on this line shares an x value of 3. Hopefully, you're thinking about slope dune and vertical lines and remembering that this has a slope of undefined, right? All right, y-intercept. Do you see a y-intercept? Does this cross the y-axis anywhere? No, it doesn't. A vertical line does not have a y-intercept. Okay, how about our x-intercept? Well, you should hopefully recognize that and see that your x-intercept is going to be positive 3, comma 0. All right, what about a horizontal line? So this, like I said, is going to be horizontal. Y equals -5, horizontal. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to go through here, right? And every point on this line is going to have a y value of -5. Again, hopefully you remember through slope dune that this is 0 fun. Hopefully I easily identify, here's my y-intercept. So I've gone over 0 and I've gone down 5. And hopefully you're recognizing, oh my gosh, an x-intercept, it's never going to cross the x-axis. And so there is no x-intercept. So careful with your horizontal and vertical lines, they're special. All right, last but not least, you are going to see something like this in class and on your homework. And this is kind of a slope and intercept table. And so what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and try to fill in the table. Use the equations on the left-hand side to identify each equation's slope, y-intercept, and x-intercept. So pause the video here and we'll come. All right, you're back. Hopefully you, in the first one, based on this video, you used your cover-up method to identify y-intercept of -8 and an x-intercept of 2. You may have then had to rearrange into slope-intercept form in order to get the slope of 4. X equals -4 is a vertical line, so it's going to have an undefined slope. Oh, it's not going away for me. Undefined slope, there we go. Oh no, the whole thing disappeared. There we go. Then hopefully you are realizing, there we go, it's not going to have a y-intercept. And then its x-intercept is going to be -4. Y equals 7 is going to be a horizontal line with a slope of 0. It's going to have a y-intercept of 7, and it's going to have no x-intercept. Y equals -2x plus 12. Hopefully you can easily identify the slope of -2 and your y-intercept of 12. And remember here that your x-intercept is going to be when y is 0. So you could plug that in here and solve for x, in which case you should get an x of 6. That's it. Hopefully this all makes sense. We'll continue to practice, do your best on your homework, and let me know if you have any questions.